Most of you know that I do lost item readings, but over the years, I've also had a lot of experience with lost people and missing people. And so I'm going to talk about that today. First of all, around um, some missing people. So one of my first experiences was back in 1997, and I'd walked past the TV on the way to the shower, and I noticed that there was the news of a landslide happening at Thredbo, and just caught it on the TV where it sort of had just happened. The news reports had just showed up, and they were showing that all these houses had slid down the mountain at Thredbo. So I went and hopped in the shower, and while I was in the shower, I could hear, like, sense and feel that somebody was screaming. They were in that landslide and they were trapped in there and they were alive and they were screaming because there was water coming over the top of them. And it was kind of like I could hear the screaming while I was in the shower. So I got out of the shower and I went back to my husband at the time and I said, you know that landslide thing? I said, there's a man alive in there. I said, I can hear him yelling out. So I watched for a couple of days to see how that unfolded, and then they did actually find Stuart Diver in the landslide, and he was still alive. So I could hear him screaming while I was in the shower. It was incredible connection. And a few years later, a lady from the USA who does still follow my page, and you may be watching, she contacted me because a young girl had gone missing in the Grand Canyon. And she sent me a photo of the girl. And when I'm focusing on a lost person, I need to go into my quiet space and look at the energy of that person and then connect to them. And with this particular girl, I felt like she had fallen off a ledge, and I did feel like she'd passed away. So I did get the feeling that she had died in the Grand Canyon. But I find it extremely difficult to say the words that someone has died. If I feel like someone's alive, I'm like really confident and happy to share the information. But when I can sense somebody has passed away, I find it really, really hard to say that to somebody. So I remember writing back and saying, yes, I can see the girl and she's fallen off a ledge and she's laying in this area, and I could pinpoint like a tower in one area. I think I gave some signs. I'm not that good with coordinates, but I can see the landscape and try and give details of the landscape that's around somebody to try and help search parties to find them. But I just couldn't bring myself to say that she had died. I just couldn't say it. So that was a few emails back and forward I think she was probably missing for about 3 weeks before they found her. But in the meantime, about a week after I had written back, the father of this girl contacted me and asked me what I could see. And all I kept saying was I was giving him the same area. I said, all I can give you is the area where I see around her. A couple of days after that, he emailed me back and he said, they think they've seen her in a cafe. They think she got back on the bus and she's in a cafe. And I was thinking, okay, I'm actually feeling like she's passed away, and you're now telling me that she's in a cafe. So I just wrote back and said to him, I don't know I'm not seeing anything like that. I don't know. And it ended up coming out about 2 weeks later that they did find her body where I had seen her body, and she had passed away. But the father did write back to me and thank me for being he felt very supported by me during that time. Even though I didn't actually give him the news that I knew, he did feel very comforted, so that was good. I've this is something that kind of, it worries me a bit with the amount of responsibility that is put on somebody when they're asking for information about a lost person. Because can you imagine how much pressure is put on me to get that right? And I'll give you an instance. So a friend of mine in Adelaide knew a young man who was in his early 20s who had gone missing for 2 days. He hadn't showed up to work, and he hadn't answered his phone messages. He hadn't been on any social media, and everyone started to worry about him. So this friend of mine decided to contact the police and let the police know that he's a missing person. So this friend rang me up and said, can you pick anything up on his whereabouts? And he sent me a photo of the young man. When I looked at it, I said, he's still alive, and he's in a very dark place in his mind at the moment, and he's gone in the car and he's sort of headed towards New South Wales. He's ignoring all his messages. He might have even turned his phone off. And he just doesn't want any contact with anybody at the moment because he's in a very dark, depressed state. I said, but he hasn't taken his life. If that's what you're worrying about, I can see that he's still alive. He's just wants to be left alone for a while. While I was actually picking up on this, I had a message from another lady I know who's a psychic. So I shared the photo with her, and I said, oh, look, I'm just currently working on this young man who's been missing for 2 days. And I sent her the photo as well, just to see if she could pick up the same as me. And when she wrote back, she said, oh, I can see him hanging from a tree. And I'm like, what? And she said, I can see him hanging from a tree. And I said, do you believe he's dead? And she said, yeah, I can connect with his spirit. And I said, but I'm not getting that he's dead. I'm getting that he's alive. She said, no, I can feel his spirit. He's died. And I'm like, well, how are you getting that he's died and I'm getting that he's alive? Because we're both working with energy. We're both psychics. So why are we getting such contradicting visions? And she said, no, I don't know. And she said, that's just what I'm feeling. And I'm like, okay. So I left it at that, and then it was about 2 days later, my friend from Adelaide rang me up, and he said, we found the boy. He's alive, and he had actually gone, he was in a dark place emotionally, and he had just got in the car and just headed off. So I wrote back to my other psychic friend and said, he's alive. And she just said, oh, okay, well, that's really good. What made me think was, this is a very responsible job that you're doing. You can't just tell people that somebody's died if you're not thoroughly convinced. So think of it yourself for a moment. If you're sitting there watching TV and there's a missing person on TV and you're looking at it and you can sense something in your mind. You're going, oh, I think they're still alive and they've done this or they've done that, or I think they've died. Are you that confident in what you're seeing that you would be confident enough to tell the police to go and search in a certain area? Or are you confident enough that you really know that this is what's happened? Or is it just a feeling, but you're not that confident that you would actually tell people that's where they are or that's what's happened to them? Because it's a lot of responsibility to put on the head of a psychic, and for me personally, I would be devastated if I got it very, very wrong. So far, I haven't got it wrong, but I would be very, very devastated if I had got it wrong. Even in the last week or so, I've had people that have sent me links to children that have gone missing, and like sometimes SAPOL, the South Australian Police Department, will put up on their website that a child's gone missing. I can look at that sometimes, and it happened just the other day with someone. They'd sent me a missing child. I look at the photo, and then my guides just say to me, "It's okay. They're with somebody that they already know. You don't have the full story yet, so you don't need to put any involvement into this case. That the child will be okay." Sometimes I know to not get involved because they're going to be fine. And I did help another lady who was a missing lad in a rural country town, and I did feel like he had lost his life, and I gave her all the information that I could come up with. But then, what are you going to do with that information? If I've got visions and then I give you the visions, what are you going to do with those visions? If you go to the local police and tell them, they're not always going to believe you because they don't always believe in psychics. Trust me, I have many, many times tried to give them information where I've seen somebody gone missing, which I thought could help, and they just don't want to listen to me. They don't believe me for whatever reason. I can't do anything about that. I can do what I can do, and if people are not going to believe me, that I can't do anything about that. And I even just in the last 2 days, I had somebody, there was some people missing out to sea on a boat, which is sort of in a local area where I live, and I was contacted because they'd been missing for 5 days and the police hadn't been able to find them, search people hadn't been able to find them, and I said to her, they're still alive. I could see them alive and on the boat, and I could see where they were in the position they were in the ocean. I don't know why they couldn't be found at that stage. But and then I was sitting with my son, and he said to me, they can't possibly be alive. I said, but I'm seeing them alive on the boat, sitting on the boat still. It's upright. And he said they can't be. The area they went through was the storms that we had. They would have had to have been taken out. And I read all the comments on Facebook and people saying, I'm sorry that, after 5 days they're probably not going to be found. I had to stand by and totally trust what I was being shown was right. Because if I got caught up in all their stories and caught up in what other people were saying, I would lose that trust in what I was seeing. And blessed be, it turns out that they showed up safe last night. So they've been found and so they are alive and everything has been okay. So I just was explaining that side of the amount of pressure that's put on me to do that kind of work, and I've never charged anyone any money when it comes to a lost person. I charge money for a lost item if you've lost jewellery or lost something, but I've never charged anybody to help them find a lost person, because I feel like the relatives are going through so much hell, not knowing where somebody is. The least I can do is just try to help where I can help with what I can do. But I can't guarantee. Sometimes I've just looked at something and gone, I can't get anything. And other times I've got a lot of detail, but I will always help where I can help. Which leads me into talking a little bit about, I wasn't sure whether to address this subject or not. And it's about there's a lot of talk about there being tunnels everywhere and missing children worldwide. This is not on mainstream media. You won't see it on mainstream media. I don't know the reasons why it's not a mainstream media. It's got sometimes the people that are talking about this has a lot of conspiracy theories attached to this. I'm just going to give you a little bit of what my experience has been. I'm not saying I'm fully understanding of any of this yet, but I'll start with back in 2012. At the time, I was married at the time, and my husband and I bought a shop, and it was a organic fruit and vegetables, organic foods, natural foods, healthy foods type shop. We were only in the shop for a week or so, and I started noticing this very evil, dark, winged looking, it looked like a bat, but it looked like the size of a man, but it was like a bat because it had black wings. And it used to fly, the shadow would fly through the back of the shop. And I'm somebody that never has experienced demonic spirits. I'm not somebody that, I know that they exist with people. I know there's other psychics out there that can deal with demons and whatever, but I'm luckily somebody that's never had to deal with anything like that in my life. So for me to see something very dark with wings flying through the shop a lot, it was very disturbing for me. And I felt like it was actually happening at the time because I was going through a marriage breakup. The shop that we had bought, we realised a week into buying it that we had been totally ripped off with how much we paid. So we were losing money. Our marriage was breaking down. I was not in a good mental state myself. I had a lot of purging going on. And I thought I kept seeing this black winged thing flying through the shop because of what I was going through. I felt like it was some kind of cleansing of mine or something deep inside me that had to come up and come out. So that was my reasoning to myself for why I was seeing this object. But my son, at the time, he saw it flying through, and sometimes customers would come into the shop, and it was sort of there was this one area that it would fly, and it would catch their eye as well. And it felt, that whole time I was in that shop, it felt so evil. Like the whole shop felt evil. But I thought it was because of what we were going through. You know, I thought it was because we were losing money, the marriage was breaking down, we were unhappy at the time. We were just, everything, you know, when life's just not going to plan. And I just felt like it was our negative energy that was in there. And one day I was standing at the counter and I saw this black, big caped black thing fly across the wall. It was like a shadow that just flew across the wall, but it was big. And I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure there's tunnels under here. I felt like there was something very, very dark underneath. So a elderly customer came in who'd lived her whole entire life in that one town. And I said to her, do you know much about the history of this town? And she goes, I know everything about this town. And I said, can you tell me do you know if there's a tunnel under this shop? And she said, yeah, there's tunnels everywhere under here. And I said, where are they? And she said, well, they go from down at the hotel down the road, and they go underneath all the shops along here under the road, and then back down 2 streets away to where the old police station was. And I said, what was the tunnels used for? And she said, that's where they used to cut the convicts under the ground. And she said, if you go into the hotel and go down under the cellar, you actually see the opening of part of the tunnel, which it's now just caged off. There's like a big mesh thing in front of the tunnel. And I said, why would they take prisoners underground? And she said, well, that's just what they used to do. They used to cart them from a courthouse way down that way and down to the police station, and they always took them underground. And I said to her, this feels really evil. There's just something that doesn't feel right that's under the ground. And I left it. You know, and we ended up getting out of that shop in 2013 with absolutely no money whatsoever. We lost everything in that shop. It was probably a really, really horrible period of our lives. And then as time went on, I had been contacted with a few missing kids, like I'm not going to say their names, but there were some few cases that are known and a few not known cases of children that have still not been found. And when I did a little bit of help with some police departments on what I was seeing, and in both 2 particular cases, I kept saying the children are under the ground. And I wasn't seeing that they were buried, like not a shallow grave. I was seeing that they were I thought it was like a mine shaft. That's what I kept saying. It was a mine shaft. It was something like, it was like under the ground, but it was a mine shaft. And I gave the information, but those children have never been found. What I've been hearing a lot about lately on social media, on different websites, on YouTube, is people talking about the children that have been stolen around the world over the year. This has been going on for now, the story that I'm telling you is, I have no idea if it's true. I don't know whether my guides are blocking me from knowing the truth because it'll upset me too much. But I'm hearing that there is children under the ground in tunnels worldwide, and there is a whole linked tunnel system worldwide, like from America, Europe, Australia. It's a network. It's kind of like, if you could imagine, there's a whole city under our earth. So we're on top of the earth and they're under the earth, and there's a whole other civilization happening under the earth where stolen children have been. Now, when I first started hearing this, I was thinking, like, that can't be true. Like, why wouldn't we know about this? Like, that can't be true. And my first thought was, well, where are these children coming from? Like, if somebody stole one of my children, the whole of Australia would know about it, because I would make the biggest noise. It would be all over the media. I would be all over social media. I'd be telling everybody that my child had been stolen. So where are these children coming from that apparently have been kidnapped? So then I started I asked a few people in law and people in the police department, and because one of my questions was, when you see that they say there's 25,000 missing children a year in Australia or in South Australia or whichever where they say, I was thinking, well, if children go missing and then they go on the register that says missing persons, does their name get taken off again if they get found? Which apparently it does. So if there is that many people going missing, they are still missing. And I was told that most people, when it's an adult, most people go missing out of choice. And with a lot of children, they are like wards of the state, or their parents just don't care about them, and they're kids that roam the streets anyway. The kids need to report to a police station. If they don't report to the police station, they're classed as a missing child, but they're not actually missing. They're just off somewhere else doing something to entertain themselves. So I'm thinking, where were all these children coming from? Because I will totally admit I have been totally naive to all this. If this is really what's been going on under our very nose, I am very, very naive to it. And I'm sure a lot of people are naive to it. So, apparently there's children kidnapped from African countries, from poorer countries. A lot of black children are taken. In America, there's records of how many children go missing a year. And as a human being who cares so much for children, I can't get my head around the fact that, why don't we know about this? Why as a mother, I'm thinking, why haven't mothers been jumping up and down and telling everybody that their child's missing? Like, why aren't we hearing about this? And I've been hearing there's thousands. Like, somebody said the other day there was 300,000 children rescued from tunnels in Melbourne. So COVID is just the smokescreen for the rescuing of children. Now, you'll read some people say that's a load of bullshit. It can't possibly happen because somebody would see something, and then you're seeing other people that are believing maybe this is what's going on, because they seem to be locking us down for reasons that they don't have to be locking us down. Is there really a mission going on underneath, or is COVID just the smokescreen of what's really going on underneath? Or is this just, we've all been led a lie? because as a psychic, I was shown the money will be changing. I was shown the gold. Remember in my predictions last year, I was shown gold. Money was going to be changing. Politics in America will change. There was all these different things that are now starting to fit into place. But I was shown that with I didn't say William Tyrrell and Maddie McCann, but I did say that 2 cases of missing children, it would be revealed, or they would be found, or there would be a reveal of what happened to them. And I just started to think, well, I don't know. Over the years, I've felt there was some kind of tunnel under the shop that time, and I've seen visions of children being in what I thought was mine shafts. Last year in the predictions, they told me there was going to be something coming up about children being found. So that's all I can put is my little bit. I've just got a little tiny, minute little piece of the puzzle that I can see, but I think the puzzle is just huge, and I don't know anything about it. And even if I try to use my ability to feel if this is true, I feel like I've got a blank wall, a brick wall in front of me. Whether I'm not meant to know, whether there's something in me blocking it because it's going to be too emotionally hurtful to me to discover that. I don't know. I don't know whether this is. I'm just putting it out there because it's being spoken about a lot online. There is no proof yet. Everyone says, "Well, where are the children?" Like, why hasn't anybody seen anything? There's so many questions because we are a very inquisitive people, and we want to know. If you're going to make a fact, if you're going to say something, you need to back it up with fact, correct? So because there's no fact and this is all just hearsay, it's making everybody think, well, maybe it's not a thing, or maybe it is. So I'm not going to comment on what I don't actually have a comment really. I just hope it's not real. But I have also had visions being shown to me where people are going to be in shock, and people are going to be standing there. And I've said that for quite some time, haven't I? That people are going to be going, I just didn't even see this happening. So has it all been happening under our nose, and we've been blind to it? And are we going to feel foolish for not seeing it? And is there a reason for all this? Or is it just a story that somebody's making up and it's gathering momentum and people are getting on board with it? I don't know. I don't know. But if you have any comments on what you think's happening, if your instinct's giving you something that my instinct's not giving me in this area, please drop a comment below, and we'll watch this unfold. But it's so interesting, the truths that are coming out, and the awakening. We're just waking up to things that we actually had no idea about that could be happening right under our nose. It's incredible times. I did mention in another post before, if you're interested in reading, I think it was The Pyramid Code by Jason Shirker. He has come out. He seems like a really normal kind of guy. He's just a real estate agent in New York who was approached 2 years ago, and you can read his story and about this group of people that have been working behind the scenes for a long time to try to put this world right. So they are the good guys. And if you look him up, do your own research. That's what I do. If I get a vision, if I get a feeling, if I read something, I'll go and ask somebody. I'll ask people that are working in that area. Try to get all the pieces together to investigate whether or not this could be true. But at the moment, I'm just sitting on the fence with it. But I am glad that I am open to knowing there's things going on that we are unaware of. And I think that's what's most important. Just ask questions, do your research, look for yourself, and see what you discover. So thank you for listening to me again, and I'd love to hear your comments. See ya.